All right, and welcome back for the episode of This Week in Charts via Carnivore Trades and Wall Street from Main Street. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find Jason on Patreon. Come find me on CarnivoreTrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyways, let's get to it this week. So markets had a nice little breakout from this pattern. So we talked about last week, we kind of went up into this upper trend line. We probably need to pull back a little bit, and that's exactly what we did. If you kind of look at an hourly here, you can see that we just kind of had a little tightening range there, and we popped through that. So we broke through that. On Thursday, we had the PCE number that came in essentially, as expected. And it's clear that there were some hedges in place for that. So those hedges getting closed out, and we are pushing higher today. ISM coming in today as well. Came in a little bit cooler than expected, so bond yields are coming in, and that is fueling the market for another push up here. Levels I've got kind of in play here are 51.50 if we were to continue higher, which, I think at this point is likely. A lot of people are looking for, a top in this market. The trade is crowded, especially in semiconductors. We've talked about that. Look at the SMH just blowing through this kind of wedge pattern. But we did consolidate for 5-6 days, so it can go higher. The thing with this, too, is right now, yes, semiconductors are overbought. I do think that they are due for some type of backing, filling, or a corrective move. I mean, we talked about SMCI, NVIDIA, of course. NVIDIA having a decent day. No new highs yet on NVIDIA. It is very close. So SMCI trying to get through this little wedge here. You have the ARMs of the world holding up. Take a look at Broadcom just having a power move here. They are a little overbought, and I think they are due for a correction here. But, you look at the Russell 2000. This is hammering on resistance and actually above the 205 handle, which is the level I've talked about. It looks like we're going to get a weekly close above that. So some of the other sectors starting to catch up now. You've got biotech here, XBI getting a pop earlier this week, and it's starting to follow through a little bit on Friday. Today, as you can see, a little bit of resistance here from this old trend line that we may be coming into. But some of these other sectors are starting to shape up, and the bottom line is, at some point, yes, the macro realities will come into play, right? I don't think inflation's going anywhere. I don't think bond yields are going to go that much lower here, even though they're coming back in today. But, until support is lost at some point, this market can and will go higher. So spiders here continuing up. Again, next level we'll look for is right around 51.50. And then after that, it's really up to the 5,200 handle. We could, stall out at this upside trend line again. Again, the range is tightening. So there's that to keep an eye on. Usually when you have a big rising wedge like this, they can break bare. But as we saw in the case of, again, just showing you here the semiconductors, they are breaking bull. And there's the QQQ right into this 445 handle. Maybe this wants 450 next week. That does kind of coincide with that upside level. But again, the bottom line is until we get, some type of reversal, or, a major breakdown, this market can and will go higher. There are a few things, though, that are concerning. I'm taking a look at Apple here. This is breaking through, making new year-to-date lows. So we've been hammering on 180 for quite a while. We do have lower highs, and that is starting to fade. I don't like the chart of Google either. This chart has not made new highs, and we are starting to hammer on some of these trend lines. We broke this one here, and we did break through here. So again, leadership is kind of thinning out in big tech land. But, as long as you have, I've been saying this on my channel too, as long as you have those semiconductors leading, it's going to be hard for this market to come down. And even if they do, this rally can broaden out to an extent here to some of the smaller names. Now, if the semiconductors come down, they make up so much more of the weighting than, say, the Russell 2000 or some of these other small caps. So it's not to say the market can't correct, but if those other names pick up leadership here, we'd probably look for higher lows on the weekly and monthly timeframes. But right now, pretty good move here for the markets, and I don't really see any problems. I mean, yes, the trade is crowded, but again, like I've been saying, we have to have a support break before we really entertain the downside. I know there was that Economist. A lot of people are talking about this right now. The Economist cover. I don't really think this is really that much of a contrarian indicator. It seems pretty neutral to me. How high can markets go with a question? They are kind of covering their bases, if you ask me. it seems semi-bullish, but it's not like they're really jumping out and telling people to buy the market. But at this point, again, like I said, bottom line, if we start to break 50-40 below this green bar, or we break this trend line on volume, and that means volume in the spiders, which we don't have today, the market, it can hold up. At some point, will the macro realities matter? Absolutely. But right now, the market's hanging in there. So again, 5150 and then really 5200 would be your next kind of big targets. QQQ, we'll just say 450 for now. It is into a short-term level that I've got around 445. Russell 2000, I believe that can go to 210. That's kind of your next stop. So you got these pivots here. If we zoom out a little bit farther, you can see right here, this is where we broke down in 2021. You got a little pivot there, and that's kind of what's coinciding with that level. So I think IWM wants to get into that area around 210. That would be your near term next stop. There should be a lot of resistance up there. Just be aware. Dow did not make new highs here, but again, it's price cap weighted. I'm not really too concerned with it. My target right now is still right around 395 on that. The SMH here, again, rising wedge breaking bull. I don't really have a level for this right now, but 220 whole round number. It may stall out around that area. The SOX here, we'll just say 5K. It's not that far off. Again, this top side trend line here broke bull. So market's still very strong right now. IGV also holding up here. So we'll see if that can get through double top. We had a little test candle last week, and it is bidding up higher. CRM reported earnings. That just made a new all-time high. That is into double top or piercing double top at this point. Very overbought in the weekly, but pretty powerful move. We'll see if it comes back in next week again, piercing that double top area. But again, IGV holding up, and again, that's not far from its double top as well, which is at 448.79. We never quite got there a few weeks ago. We'll see if it gets tagged here in the near term. Dow Transports, again, having a decent week, and I don't mind this pattern here. So we did repair that chart late last week, and now we're just kind of, there's a little bit of a sideways inside week. If we look at there's the weekly. This is just setting up inside of this green, and again, no real problems. This is a sector that I think that if tech tops out, this is what I would look for to catch up. I will say right now, we'll talk about oil in a second, but oil is ripping today, and that is on breakout. So that might put pressure on the transports here in the short run, but in the big picture, that weekly time frame, there's really nothing bad with that there. Interest rates. Again, so 2-year, they're pretty much backing off across the board here. So 2-year, we'll look for maybe like 4.45 in the short term. 5-year had a nice tight pattern that's starting to fade. Again, we'll look at 4%, 4.05, 10s, right on, kind of right on that 420 area, which is where we broke out from. This could still put in higher lows, and so can the 30. I'm expecting the 30 here to really key off of this upsloping trend line here. That's kind of all the downside I see for yields right now, especially with oil breaking out. But right now the market had the a colder ISM number, so the bond market's liking that. There's expectations the Fed's going to be easier now. I mean, financial conditions are as loose as they can be, so I'm not in the heavy rate cut camp. But in the short run, bonds are pulling back, or I should say yields are pulling back. And again, I'm kind of keying off the 30-year right now, and this is kind of where I'd expect it to go, I'm expecting it actually to result in a higher low. But right now, it is on pullback here. XHB just continues to melt up. And this is getting, starting to get parabolic on the weekly and monthly, so just be aware of that. It is very overbought here, but again, as long as the trend is up on this and we're still holding supports, this can go higher. If this started to retrace back below this pivot, or I would even say 100, that would leave it a little bit more vulnerable for more of a corrective move, but this has been in melt up mode here. So, I'm just going to continue to give that the upside bias until we get a reversal. I think VNQ is also holding up okay. Again, weekly time frame, no real issues with it. It's trying to turn this trend back up, and we're above that green bar on the weekly, so that is still fine for now. XLF kind of a sideways week here. We did get through the 40 handle like I talked about. Maybe it has to do a little bit of backing filling. NYCB kind of putting a little bit of pressure here on banks. Again, today you can see KRE. I've talked about this. Not in love with this chart here. I don't like how we closed below that breakout bar there. Now you have kind of like you can make a case as you had a bear flag here on the weekly. So definitely regional still on the softer side. RRP, BTFP running out shortly. We'll see how the aftermath of that works. I think as long as RRP is in play, I think the market will hang in there. So that gives us a little bit of time here on the clock. But in any case, KRE, it's trying to hold up. I just don't really love the pattern here. The KBE is in a little bit better shape. But again, could still be vulnerable if we have banking issues, obviously. And then broker dealers here are still at all-time highs, and they are continuing to melt up. All right, continuing over to commodities here. So crude is on breakout. I'm still looking for about 81.50 here in the near term. Didn't quite get there, but it's gonna be right there with that pivot low, and that's exactly at 81.50. So right in that vicinity is where I'm looking for it to go here. But we do have a weekly. It's going to be a weekly close above this this red bar. And believe it or not, you did trigger an inverse head and shoulders on this. This is kind of the wild card here. So if this is allowed, and I say the word allowed, to continue higher, that measured move would take you up to 91. I don't know if the administration is going to let that happen, but I do think we can get to the mid 80s. So I'm looking for like 84.50 area, assuming this holds up. But crude's on breakout here. And again, it's another reason why I don't expect yields to go that much lower. Very interested to see if this holds and goes into the mid 80s, what the PCE and CPI is going to look like next month, and how much longer the market can ignore it. Again, there's macro problems everywhere, right? But the market will do what it wants to do. So it's very important to remember that. If you want me to make you a bear case, I can sit here and make this video 6 hours long. But just trying to keep people on the on the right side of the trade. A lot of people are looking to short and everything, but this market's not. It's telling you it's not respecting it right now. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying here. But in any case, it does beg the question: if this does hold up and push higher, how much longer will the market ignore it? That remains to be seen. But oil on breakout, XLE on breakout. Well, it might be backing off at 87, but we did break out of this little pattern here. And again, it's hammering on that level, and it's been doing so. And it's acting well. XOP acting well. Additionally, new year-to-date highs on XOP. Highs going back to November. OIH, which you guys know I've been a fan of. That can still get to 310 here in the short term, and 320 and so on and so forth. But OIH on breakout as well. CCJ back above 42. So next level here is 45. So that's what I'm looking for on that front. And URNM is getting defended here at the lows. Again, retrace levels about 52 to 52.50. Nat gas did have a little bit of a recovery this week. This is going to be, so you had a little bit of a gap up on the contract, but if we use the front contract here, you're going to see we still made higher highs and higher lows. So the chart's in better shape now. I think my bias now is we're probably retraced about 210, 220. And then we'll kind of look at it from there, kind of get through this pivot. That remains to be seen. But, it is acting better. You got the higher highs, higher lows. The last time you had that was back here, and we had a 40 to 50% rally off that. So it is acting well. If it does come down, it'll spike the low, and I think that will probably be where it puts in a more concrete low, maybe even a long-term low. But it is in better shape this week, and we'll give it the upside bias to $2 and change. Dollar index is pulling back today, but it's acting okay. It's nothing terrible here. You're not like losing support or anything. As long as we're above 103.50, I think the dollar is fine. So, no real issues here. Kind of a sloppy neutral pattern here on the daily, but if this firms up, this can still, work its way back up to 106. I think it might take a few weeks for that to consolidate this big move that we just had. But as long, as long as we're above 103.50, I think it's okay. On the gold is having a huge move today. So 2100, I told you guys 2075 will be your next level. We're through that. 21's the next level, and we're about there right now. So we'll see how this behaves. Is it on breakout? I don't know. It's very hard to say. NYCB, maybe there's uncertainty with regional banks. If that's the case, general equities are not really signaling that. If we look at bonds or bond yields for that matter, it's not like they're signaling a huge problem. But, it's acting well. And, I'm going to give it the upside bias to 21. If it gets through that, then your 2150 double top. But this should be, I think, an all-time weekly closing high for gold. If we can get above, so 2091, we're just barely above that. If we were to close here without pulling back a little bit. So big move there for gold. Still the miners, though, still just at 52-week lows. I mean, you can make a case it's going to catch up, but I would really like to see the miners leading. That's just kind of my thought. But I guess gold right now is sniffing out easier policy. I guess as if it's not super easy right now. But it's on breakout here. And we'll give it the upside bias. We'll say 21 here, short run. And then really 2050 or so is that's it. And that's the previous all-time high. Silver having a nice curl up here. So 2065, 2050 is your next level. Then 24 and 2450. Platinum also getting a bid here, coming off the lows, as is palladium here, and I still like those. Down at these levels, copper here, trying for a higher low. So we'll see what that can do here. Still got resistance with this down sloping trend line. If it backs off, we'll just say 375 in the near term. So Bitcoin, obviously big time on the move this week, huge thrust, and it's holding up, right? Again, another thing, I've seen a lot of bears come in, and we had a little bit of a reversal the other day. Seeing a lot of bears come in and claim victory, but this is holding right back up, and it's hammering on the highs still. You guys know I never turned bearish on Bitcoin. Even when we dipped down a few weeks ago, I said there's nothing wrong with this on the weekly, and use those bigger time frames. And since then, we're up, 22,000, 24,000 points on Bitcoin. It is overbought. It does need to back off a little bit, but this should go through the highs. I mean, I don't really see why it's not going to. At this point, we're very close to it. And additionally, if we look at the alts, you're seeing ETH confirm here. We can get those lines to show up. So there we go. So Ether right up into this 35, 36 area. It is pulling back, but what I like is some of these alts, which I did pick up earlier this week. Look at Solana starting to break out, right? So even if Bitcoin slows down here, there's Solana, Cardano, Polkadot acting well. Also, it does look like we're seeing money flow kind of into the other coins, which is good for the sector, right? If we see rotation when the majors start to stall out, that does bode well for the sector as a whole. So I don't really see problems with Bitcoin, and it is still acting really well. Again, lastly, so again, markets here, I would give the upside bias to 5150 here in the short run. Doesn't mean we can't pull back. Again, we're kind of going back up into this upside trend line here. But again, I know everybody's looking for, I know the trade's crowded in tech. I know the trade's crowded in semis. But, you don't want to get in front of this because, again, until support breaks, they can take this higher. They're forcing market makers in right now. They're forcing market makers to sell puts to buy calls. And that does put a directional bias on this market. So, again, until we get indication here, a high volume sell or a loss of support, just assume they want this up. And again, I hate to put it that cut and dry, but that's really, just the long and short of it there. So anyways, guys, so I'm going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys all next week.